think separates it, and what makes it modern, and what makes it, I think, actually very, it has, I think, to us a familiar feel. This is the sort of thing that one can still write today. But a medieval scholasticist would not have written this. There's sarcasm in here, and there's realism. This is what the humanism is about. He's not talking about reconciling what people do with what the Bible says. He's talking about what people actually do, and he's talking here about what Ferdinand actually does. And this bit about covering himself with a cloak of religion. Religion would not have been seen as a cloak by medieval thinkers. In order to see religion as a cloak, you have to be focused more on the humans. Right? You have to be focused more on people in order to see the cloak, see religion as something we choose to wear or not. It's not. Remember the great chain of being. Humans are this sphere. God put us right there. He didn't put us here and wrap us in a cloak. A very, very different way of thinking. Right? Money. This turns out to be another important piece of work for Renaissance princes, and that's what I'd like to turn to that now. I was going to talk about Renaissance princes first, and point out how Machiavelli's idea of a Renaissance prince was Ferdinand, but you notice that Ferdinand was who Machiavelli was talking about. This is another aspect of the Renaissance, not a direct consequence, but certainly something came along at the same time and made sense in the context of the Renaissance, and that's the rise of Renaissance princes. Renaissance princes are these new kinds of princes that Machiavelli talked about. We often have an image, I think, of medieval kings as being very, very powerful, and that as modernity approaches, the power of kings falls. But that's not quite right. Medieval kings were actually quite a bit weaker, and part of the reason for that was simply technology. But medieval kings were essentially another noble. They were one of many nobles, and their power was pretty much based on what they could get the nobles to do. And nobles were usually up for war. That's what they liked to do. And at that time, the way you made war was you got all of your nobles and knights together, and you put them on expensive horses, and you dressed them in expensive armor, and they rode at each other. Right? But the technology moved on, and armor became a big loser when infantry was developed. Infantry with crossbows or with a longbow, a peasant with a cheap weapon was able to take out an expensive guy on horseback in armor. So that radically changed things. And what that meant was that in order to make war, kings no longer needed their nobles and their knights. They needed instead was money. They needed money first for infantry and later for armaments. In order to get money, they needed bureaucracy. Now, bureaucracy and taxing authority, all that bureaucracy requires literacy. Literacy goes hand in hand with this new kind of humanist education, with the printing press, and the Renaissance in general. Right? These other ideas are really more simply tactics. These Renaissance princes happen to pursue strategic marriages. They formed alliances with cities as a way of getting around the nobles, and a way of becoming more powerful than nobles. And they formed alliances. I put the word alliance in quotes here with the church because there's an uneasiness with Renaissance princes, and you can see that again in the great chain of being. Kings are crowned, or tend to be. They have to be crowned by someone, and they're claiming to be kings by divine right. So it's generally the Pope. Right? But if the Pope is the one who coronates, then who's on top? Is it the Pope or is it the king? That's a point of contention. The great chain of being is not entirely clear about that. But Renaissance princes tended to make some kind of accommodation with the church because basically they're not really powerful enough yet to challenge the church. Right? Eventually, what these Renaissance princes morph into are absolutists. It's early at this point with these guys, with John of Portugal, Ferdinand, Henry VII, Francis I. These guys are not there. Absolutism really comes in the 1600s with Louis XIV, for example, another 100 years later. But these guys are on that path. This is where they want to go. They want to run large nation states, and they want to rule absolutely. And so they're pursuing these ideas to get there. Now the first two on this list, John of Portugal, which I have rendered in a slightly smaller font, because he's not always on this list. Obviously 1385 is a little bit early for a Renaissance prince, and Portugal is a rather small country in the scheme here. But I think he kind of counts. He was well-educated and certainly pursued policies similar to the others. His third son, Henry the Navigator, is really the important mover and shaker here. Henry the Navigator, who is third in line for the throne of Portugal, devotes his attention, very concerted attention, to navigation, that is to things nautical. He patronizes map makers and shipbuilders and sailors, and he encourages wealthy people, including wealthy people from the Italian city-states who are still wealthy, to invest in these voyages. So it's a kind of blend of, he's got an infrastructure where he tries to encourage development of ships, and he's also nurturing capitalism at the same time. He's finding investors. And that is a powerful combination that allows Portugal to really get out in front, and let's see if I got a map. Yes, and to found this huge empire. Now remember this, I made this story that the Italian city-states are declining because the Ottomans have taken over the eastern trade. So they've got a financial incentive as well as plain old curiosity. But Portuguese, Henry the Navigator, egging them all on, pursue a strategy along the West African coast. Like everybody at this time, they know the world is round. The real difficult part is developing a ship that can hold enough stuff to keep a crew alive long enough to get around, to get to the east. So the Portuguese pursue a strategy of staying close to the coast, and the big mystery for them is whether the west coast of Africa ever ends. They don't know. They send ships there. And by 1488, Bartolomeo Diaz gets around the Cape of Good Hope and essentially proves that Africa has a bottom. It takes them another 10 years to send Vasco da Gama all the way to India by that route. But nonetheless, the Portuguese have discovered a way to the east, a trade route to the east, and they become very rich as a result. The policy they pursue is very different from the one I'll describe that the Spanish pursue. And you can see it's different right away by the way this map looks. The yellow bits, which I have to enhance with these arrows, are the Portuguese possessions. None of them are very big. They're all islands. So islands along the coast, some places on the coast, but they're small. They're small, and the way that they operate is through trade. They're not conquering large areas of land, as we'll see the Spanish do. They are interested in trade, and they're not trying to annoy the natives. They're not trying to exterminate the natives. They're interested in trading, and they trade all the way up and down the coast. They don't just trade with India and China, although that's certainly where the money is. Now I'll contrast them to Spain, and you'll get the idea at first that, the Portuguese were really benevolent. They weren't implicated, for example, in the massive die-offs and enslavements of the Amerindian population. But it's important to keep in mind that the Portuguese were not just trading spices and silks, they were also trading slaves. And by 1440, they are already growing sugar on the Madeira Islands with African slave labor. That model, that Portuguese model of growing sugar with African slaves, is going to be exported to the New World and is going to make a very, very big splash there. So, although they're not pursuing conquest, there is a very amoral character to the Portuguese Empire as well. The Spanish are largely busy trying to get the Moors out of the Iberian Peninsula until 1492. They're not as doggedly persistent in a particular strategy of exploration, but they're noticing what the Portuguese do. And so when Columbus pitches his idea first to Portugal, and the Portuguese scratch their head, they make a frowny face and they say, Chris, it's a nice idea, but you've added it up wrong. The world is bigger than you think. If you go that way, you're going to die of thirst. So they declined to fund him. The Portuguese were right, of course. But Columbus then goes to Spain. The Spanish string along for a while, and they finally do fund his voyage. Largely, I think, because it was fairly low cost gamble, and who knows, it might work. I don't think they believed either that Columbus had done the sums right. And sure enough, he hadn't. He had underestimated the size of the world by a fairly large factor. But he was lucky enough to bump into these two continents. When the Spanish arrived there, they found a place that was quite populated. They thought at first that they were trading with the East. I mean, Columbus, I think, died thinking that he had still discovered Asia. But the Spanish fairly quickly discovered the Pacific Ocean, and when they did, they realized what they had here, and they turned from trade to conquest. And they did conquest pretty well. So you can see all of these orange bits represent places that the Spanish bothered to conquer. This map is from somewhat later than the period we're really talking about. The French and the English are not there yet. The Spanish could have had all of it if they wanted. In fact, by a treaty in 1493 that we'll talk about in a moment, they did have all of it. But what's important, or what's interesting, is the places that they picked are the places that were heavily populated. They were interested in empire, not in land, but in empire. That's going to be a big difference between the way it works out for the English. The Spanish got there first, and if the English had gotten there first, I think they would have done the same. You want to conquer people. Remember, this is a time when technology is such that there are no fossil fuels. So the only way to get things done is labor. And that's going to be the story in the New World for a long time, that controlling labor is what it takes to be wealthy. So Spanish went where the labor was, and they did the best to conquer it, and they did quite well. All right, let's see. Other questions about that so far? Okay, I'm going to stop here. I wanted to get through a little bit more, but I'll just talk faster next time because I want to give you time to form lab partners. All right. So if there are no questions, thank you very much.